Hello everybody, hope you're well. My name is Reza. Thank you so much for watching this video. At this session, I would like to talk about the chest muscle group. As you know, chest is located in front of our body, and the reason people train these muscles could be different between male trainees and female trainees. But in the case of a function of the muscles, the anatomy and the movements, it's same for everybody. So I would like to go through a bit more details on how the chest, especially pectoralis major, works. And in my next and future videos, I'm going to go through the exercises that you can develop and train your chest muscle group. Okay, so as you see here on the muscular system anatomy, you can see chest, especially this is the called pectoralis major, and in the other side underneath of these muscles is the pectoralis minor. So the attachment and insertion of the muscle you can see, but I would like to spend more time on the pectoralis major, which is mostly superficial and you can easily touch it and make better development in terms of look and strength. So the pectoralis major, or in general we call it chest muscle, is located in the front, as you see here. And if I just want to go through the bone structure, this is the sternum, and the bone in our hands called humerus, which is the most of these muscles attached to the this bone. So the pectoralis major has three major heads. Started with the clavicular head, which is the clavicular section. This is the bone here, you can touch it easily, called clavicle. And this bone in the center called sternum, as you can easily touch it and basically know which one I'm talking about. So, and then the ribs we have here, they're all the places that these muscles going to be attached to them. So the pectoralis major had three heads, as I said. The clavicular head is here, and then we have the sternal head is here, and then we have the abdominal head, which is here. As you see here, the fibers directions are different, and this is one of the reasons that we have different exercises in terms of training these muscles. As you know, for example, flat bench, incline bench, or decline bench. That's the reason that we choose these exercises and put them on our routine, because we are trying to work with different muscle direction fibers of these muscles. So all these heads, from the clavicular, then the sternal, then abdominal, all goes to the humerus part, upper part of the humerus, to the hand bone. So here, that's why when you move your hand, your pectoralis muscles, your chest muscles start to move. But what is the function of this muscle? This is interesting that I call this muscle hug muscle, because one of the major movement and function of these muscles, and we use it on our exercises such as fly, is the hug. So when you do this, you see that pectoralis major become active. So if you had a chance to look at watch my previous videos about the body movements in the upper body or shoulder joint, one of the body movement called adduction, which is having your hands close to the midline. In this section, this is adduction, and this is the horizontal adduction also. So that is one of the major function of the pectoralis major. So pectoralis major does in general three major movements. So having the horizontal adduction, which is like having your hands from the horizontal section and bring it toward your midline, which is this line. This is one of the major movement of the pectoralis major, or the chest muscles. So that's the reason one of the major exercises that we do is flies, or also all kinds of press that we do this is kind of horizontal movement. If you look at here, this is flies, this is press. So they both are doing the same movements, which is horizontal abduction, and they both are developing the pectoralis major, especially the sternal head, which is the mid part of it. But in general, there are movements that the other movements that also is good to know that the pectoralis major or the chest muscle does. So beside the horizontal adduction, there is another movement, as I explained before, called medial rotation or internal rotation. As you see here, the rotation that you can see from the shoulder joint, this is also one of the major movement of the pectoralis major. The other movement that this muscle generally does is shoulder adduction. You know that you may think, okay, this is not what usually we do to develop our chest muscle, but in terms of the functionality of the muscles, this is also one of the movement that pectoralis major does, which is shoulder adduction. So in this move, also because of the attachment and insertion of these muscles, this is one of the other movement that your pectoralis major does. But if I want to just go a little bit more in details on different heads of the pectoralis major or the chest muscle, I can tell you that the clavicular part, which is the upper part, which is usually we call the upper chest, is the part that the fibers, as you see here, is mostly toward the upward. So the movement of this is horizontal adduction. Also, it helps in the medial rotation. Also, this head does assist in shoulder flexion. So you may be seeing the exercises that people do like this. As you see, this movement could be done by dumbbell or also the cable. This is called flexion, as I explained to the previous video. So this shoulder flexion, part of it is going to be done by the upper section of your pectoralis major, which is the clavicular section. So this movement is part of the upper chest. Now we're going to go through the sternal. So sternal part of the chest is this section. As you see the fibers here, this is the sternal section of your pectoralis major. And what it does usually, beside the horizontal adduction and also medial rotation, also helping on the assisting on the shoulder adduction, what else it does is helping the shoulder extension. So this movement also, as you know, called shoulder extension, and part of it is doing by the midsection of your pectoralis major. The lower part of your pectoralis major, which is the abdominal part, or we call like costal head, this section, the lower abdominal part, which usually we use the cable or we use the decline bench for developing this muscle, has also few different movements. So beside the horizontal adduction, also shoulder medial rotation. On the shoulder adduction, also what it does, assist in shoulder flexion and shoulder extension. That's interesting. I know, it's a bit, maybe it's a bit confusing that how come some part of the muscles, does different than other head of it. It's the way that, the muscle fiber with a different direction works. So, but if you generally wants to know what pectoralis major or the chest does, in general, three movements is what you need to know. One is the horizontal adduction. So horizontal adduction is mostly all the exercises being designed for it. So whatever we do for the chest muscle is called horizontal adduction, major exercises. Then we have rotation. So when you do the medial rotation for the shoulder, Beside the other muscle that I'm going to talk about in the future, the pectoralis major is also one of the muscles that helping you do this. And the other one, which is the movement of the shoulder adduction, is the other one that, the chest pectoralis major does. So these three are pretty much same on all different head of your pectoralis major chest. So how the other movements is going to be done by other head, it's not very in details important, but this is a little bit different. It's details is good for the people who are practitioner and just try to just find out if there is any challenge or any issue with the muscles or the movements, or there is any pain. So this is for that kind of people but in generally for those who want to design a program or want to do your own exercise for these muscles, this is good enough to know that the major movements of the pectoralis majors are the one I mentioned to you. There are always on the movements that we do, on the exercises that we do, there are different muscles involved. This is good to know that any movement that we make, usually there are four type of movements involved. Like these four muscles are going to do the movements for us. The first muscle, which does the target exercise that we target the muscle group, called the first mover, or we call prime mover, or in the kinesiology term called agonist. And then we have the second mover, like a or secondary mover, or we call the helper mover. And then the third one is the synergy movers, and the fourth one is the stabilizers. So, for example, when we do, exercises like a chest press, there are different muscles involved of this particular exercise. The major mover, or the target muscles, is the pectoralis major. So these movements, for example, you're lying on the bench, flat bench press you're doing. So this is pectoralis major, is the agonist or first mover. Then the triceps and the anterior section of your deltoid are the second mover and the synergy. And also there are the muscles we call coracobrachialis inside. They are doing also helping the movements of horizontal adduction, which is again part of the synergy muscles. And then we have stabilizers like the rotator cuff muscles, the trapezius at the back. So they are trying to stabilize the movements of the shoulder joint and also the shoulder blades. But generally, this is how body try to complete the movements and exercise safely. And one of the major reasons that it's important to work on all the different muscles is because, as I mentioned, when you're doing any exercises, is like there's like a complex of the movements is going to do that, perform that exercise for you. And this is how you have to make sure that that movement is pretty much safe and strong. All right, so this is I'm hoping that you enjoyed that sessions that I went through the pectoralis major muscles. And then by knowing this, like how the chest works and functions and the head, this is then good idea for you to understand when we are doing any exercises for developing, strengthening the chest, how does it work? And you have to also know how you can stretch this muscle, and by doing this you can release the tension after doing the exercises, especially if you're training very intense, and then let your muscles get a better range of motion and get rid of tensions and become relaxed. In my next videos, you're gonna see that I would like to go through different muscle groups, and then one by one I'll explain like how those muscles their function, and then after that you're gonna see the videos about the exercises, and then By performing those exercises, you will understand how the combination of different muscles are trying to perform you that exercise. Hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you so much. Good luck.